Hello and welcome back once again to movie reviews. Still getting caught up on the movies that I planned to see last week until I fell ill. Final one that I wanted to see from last week, and then not sure when I'm going to get around to seeing the ones I wanted to see this week because I'm playing catch up. Maybe next weekend when I got a day off again. I don't want to spend the whole day today because this is my last day off watching movies, so just seeing one today. And I had to drive all the way across town because none of the theaters near my house were showing it. But I went and saw the new Kevin Smith film, Tusk. What to make of Tusk? Well, honestly, if you like Kevin Smith films, you'll like it. It's different than his older movies. As much as I liked Red State, it's actually a lot better than Red State. It ties in the horror aspect with his more traditional comedy. But it's not just taking place in one spot where, he never moves the camera, that old cliche. He actually moves around quite a bit in this one. A lot of really nice shots in this one compared to, his normal directorial style. But if you listen to the podcast that it's based off of, which was Smodcast 239 or 259, I forget which one. It's one of those. Maybe it was 238. It's somewhere around there. Look it up. It's labeled everywhere. But if you listen to that, it's more or less exactly as they described it. It's been a while since I listened to it, but it does definitely hit a lot of the key points they talked about. There's really not a whole lot to say about it other than go watch the film if you're a Kevin Smith fan, because it's actually a good movie. Honestly, I could sit and listen to Michael Parks talk about being an old seafaring person, all day, because when he's telling these stories, the way his voice carries, he could just do dramatic readings and you could sit and listen to him and be enthralled by it, even if he was just reading, a menu or something. It's just the way his voice carries. So that was a good point. Which sadly, that was the part I didn't like about Red State, was how long his speech in Red State went on. It was kind of okay, you made your point, you're just kind of reiterating everything you've already said, move along. And even Kevin Smith says himself that did run a little bit longer than it probably could have or should have. But, in this, he's telling these stories, and sure, they're kind of bullshit, or you kind of laugh at certain things on them, but just the way his storytelling is just, it's just amazing. Then, later on in the film, we get the Johnny Depp character, which Johnny Depp wasn't credited as Johnny Depp in this film. He's credited as the character he played in the movie, so basically the character was playing himself type of thing. But Johnny Depp, he does this dialogue when he first meets up with the two characters. It's real close to the end of the movie, so... But he does this dialogue and tells this long story about this guy. And again, it was one of those rambling parts, with Michael Parks in Red State. It's this doesn't have to be this long. Yeah, he's giving a lot of detail about it, but it could be trimmed up a little bit. And yeah, it would shorten the runtime of the movie, but it would move it along a little bit faster. But yeah, I could overlook that just because the rest of this movie was so good. There's the bit with Johnny Depp's daughter and Kevin Smith's daughters playing Canadian store clerks, and from what I hear, that's what the next in the series is going to be about. His next film is Yoga Hosers, and it's part of his, was it True North or True Canadian North trilogy or whatever. So Tusk is the first one, Yoga Hosers, and then Moose Jaws, which Moose Jaws is just going to be Jaws with a moose, which will be awesome. Looking forward to that one. But basically, Johnny Depp's daughter and Kevin Smith's daughter are basically playing female clerks, in this convenience store, and from what I've heard him talk about yoga hosers, it's going to follow those two characters because they're like yoga enthusiasts who go searching for a witch or something. It's been a while since I actually heard him say what it was about, but sometimes it's going to stick with the comedy horror thing from what I understand of it. Not sure if the girls will be recast or if it'll just kind of be, a female version of Clerks. But, yeah, sounds interesting. So looking forward to that one. Definitely looking forward to Moose Jaws, though, because Jaws with a moose, come on. How can you miss with that? But, yeah, overall, other than, the introduction of Johnny Depp's character could have been trimmed up a little bit, but other than that, the movie ran smoothly. It kept me interested. I won't say it was like an outstanding film because honestly, it's going to be a cult following, obviously. Considering how much it's already bombed at the box office or whatever you want to say, I don't feel that it deserves that. It was a decent film. I could sit and watch it again. That's how good it was. Just like most Kevin Smith films, once you view them a second, third, fourth time, you start to enjoy them a lot more. That's why they have more of a cult following. He's more of an independent filmmaker than he is a mainstream filmmaker. And it's nice to see that he's actually getting back to that. He lost his interest in making films and was going to retire because he got tired of the whole Hollywood aspect of it. But now with this one, since he's been financing it on his own and, doing everything independently again, he's found his love for it, and now he's going to do like 6 more movies, I guess he said he's got in the works. Whatever I'm trying to say. Yeah, in the works. So, it's nice that he found his love for it again. There's a lot of podcast references in this, so if you you gotta listen to like all of the podcasts, not just Smodcast, but Hollywood Babylon, among all the others on the Smodcast network. There's a lot of little nods towards things. Yeah, so it's just, go see it. It's a good film. Other than the Johnny Depp bit could have been trimmed up a little bit, but other than that, it was a solid film. And it was actually probably one of the better Kevin Smith films. During the credit sequence, which was fairly short, like I said, it was independently funded, they actually play excerpts from the podcast that this movie was based off of, and it actually plays the clip of them describing the ending of the movie, which the ending was the one thing I kind of didn't like at first. I was like, I understand why they went this route, because they referenced something a little bit earlier in the film about walruses crying, and so I understand why they went the route they went, but at the same time, the ending they kind of lead up to before the fake out probably would have been the more solid ending, but the more poetic ending was the ending they went with. And then when they're playing the excerpts from the podcast, it's actually exactly how they described it in the podcast. So if you listen to it, no spoilers, but if you listen to the podcast, you're listening to the movie more or less. Because, it's like, well, why did they go that way instead of the other way? Okay, they're trying to be more poetic, then it's playing this clip from the podcast. It's like, oh, well, that's the way he originally envisioned it, so I guess that works out. He's sticking true to his original idea. But yeah, so as far as a star rating on this one, oh, get ready for it. I'm damn close to rating this a 4. But like I said, the more poetic ending, I understand why he did it, but it took me out of it a little bit, and then the Johnny Depp bit ran a little bit too long. So I'm going to rate it a solid 3.5. Damn close to being a 4. Most Kevin Smith films, at least for me, like I said, first time I watched Red State, I really wasn't that into it. It took like a second watching for me to really appreciate it. This one, first watching, I appreciate it. So, that's... Yeah, I'd stick with the 3.5. It came damn close to a 4, but gonna have to dock it a little bit for those minor little tweaks it could have had. But that's Kevin Smith for you. That's the way he does things. He's a storyteller. He's writes long dialogue of talking, which usually is very funny. But since he's not doing comedies, sometimes they just run long. So if he works on the trimming there a little bit, but at the same time is delivering a lot of information that you don't want to lose, so I understand that. But yeah, so if it's still in theaters near you or a theater near you, because it opened on like 600 screens, and the place over by my house actually had it for like a week and then dropped it, so I had to drive across town to see it. I have no idea where I'm at right now, by the way. I'm surprised I made it over here. Now I gotta try and make it back home. But, yeah, so if it's still in theaters near you, definitely check it out. If not, then definitely when it comes out on Netflix or DVD, check it out. If you're a Kevin Smith fan, you'll enjoy it. If you're the podcast fan, you'll enjoy that. If you're not a Kevin Smith fan, you'll probably say it's shit like all his other films, but, you know, to each their own. I'm a Kevin Smith fan, and I approve this film. So yeah, that's it for this episode. I do know what I'm getting up to next, but I'm not going to tell you yet, just in case something happens I'm not able to see those. I don't know if I mentioned, but the other movie I had originally been putting off seeing ended up getting dropped from the theaters, so that review will never come. That's why I never told you what it was. In case anyone cares, it was The 100-Foot Journey. Looked like an interesting film, so I was going to see it, but I ended up getting sick, and then by the time I was able to go see films again, it had been dropped from the listing, so it's been out for a while now, so it's not that big a deal anymore. But that's it for this episode. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Movie Reviews. Go see Tusk.